Chair will recognize Representative Plaskett from the United States Virgin Islands for 5 minutes of questioning, and I will allow Representative Spear to come up and take over the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much to my colleague, Mr. Ruda. This has been an excellent hearing thus far. And Mr. Gaynor, thank you so much for coming before Congress and for giving us an update. I know that you all have so much work to do. It's a tremendous task ahead for all of us.
Thanks,
I appreciate the COVID-19 pandemic operational guidance for 2020 hurricane season that FEMA has prepared. But I wanted to know, I would appreciate further details on your plans for the Virgin Islands if it were to be struck by another hurricane this year. As you're aware, our hospitals are still damaged and not able to operate at full capacity. Our schools, businesses, or hotels are still being prepared. In recent weeks, we've also seen exponential growth in COVID infections here in the territory, unfortunately. How would FEMA plan to provide non-congregant sheltering after a storm in the Virgin Islands, especially if COVID cases continue to grow here in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and thank you for your support on USVI. We do appreciate it. And there's a number of questions, and I'll try to get to all of them. I actually was in the USVI, visited all 3 islands in early January, met with the governor and the team to make sure that we were addressing all the issues that the territory was experiencing. To include, at the time, was getting schools reopened. And through a great partnership with the governor and the team, drove that forward. I actually placed one of my most talented federal coordinating officers down there to lead that effort. Today, in preparedness for hurricane season and looking back at the lessons we learned from 2017, we have commodities on all 3 islands. We have more commodities on continental U.S. We have more commodities on Puerto Rico than we ever had before. When it comes to COVID-19, we've been working with the governor and the team, building surge capacity to make sure if a hospital runs out of capacity that they have surge capacity, make sure they have adequate ventilators, and again, if there's a need to shelter, we are working with the territory to make sure that they have all the capability that they require.
What is that capability that they have discussed with you in terms of non-congregant sheltering after the storm? What is the plan?
I would have to talk to the FCO and the Virgin Island Emergency Manager to see what specifics they have down there. But if you allow me, I'll follow up and get you a detail of what the territory's plan is for that and how we're supporting it.
Thank you. You talked about surge capacity in terms of COVID. And as you know, everyone is concerned with PPE funding. The president has stated that this response was preeminently the responsibility of the federal government. In the Virgin Islands, we've learned that FEMA has decided that plexiglass is not eligible for reimbursement under the public assistance program. Why does FEMA feel that it's not responsible for reimbursing the cost for protective equipment like plexiglass, which as an emergency protective measure? Do you all not see it as an emergency protective measure?
Ma'am, that's the first I heard of that issue. Again, I will personally look into that and get back to you with an answer.
I really appreciate that. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about was in terms of cost share. Now, I understand that we probably won't agree on how much is the federal government's responsibility and how much is the state. But absent that, I'd appreciate a commitment from you that in a short period of time, within 2 weeks or so, that you will jointly issue guidance with HHS to much more clearly explain what activities will be the responsibility of HHS and which will be the responsibility of FEMA. I know that you all are working on an MOA. This pandemic continues ravaging stronger than ever, and Congress has appropriated another $45 billion for the Disaster Relief Fund of the CARES Act, which was supplemented funding for your agency's response effort. Can I get do you have an update, or is there a commitment from you?
Yes, ma'am. You're absolutely correct that we have a bulletin for COVID response, and we have a bulletin for natural disasters under hurricane season as an example, and we're in the process of merging those two, so it's a little bit clearer to jurisdictions under the COVID-19 major or on a potentially new major for a hurricane or tropical storm. So we are working out those details. One of the challenges is there's lots of supplemental funding across the nation for lots of different things, and we want to make sure that it's clear and people understand how to use it, so when the accounting happens, we don't have to claw back any money or have duplication of benefits. So we want to be deliberate about that, and when there's an update, I'll absolutely share it with you.
I'm just hoping that, like the other issues that we've had, particularly the STEP program, that guidance will be sooner rather than later, so that our government has clear delineation of what the guidance is. And with the chair's indulgence, I would ask Mr. Gaynor, I'm really looking for you. I understand that you've had a commitment from you personally that any outstanding issues with closing out the STEP program in the Virgin Islands would be resolved by August of this year. Is FEMA still on track to honor that commitment to resolve the outstanding issues with closing out the shelter and temporary essential power, the STEP program, by next month? And I have other questions that I'll submit for the record, and after your response, I yield back. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. On STEP, we've had numerous conversations with the territory on it, and I think from our point of view, it really is, and we have provided technical support and assistance as required, and that STEP program, public assistance program, is reimbursable for eligible expenses. I think the issue now is between the government of Puerto Rico and the vendors that they hired, making sure all that paperwork has been submitted, make sure it's proper, and then when it's proper, we'll absolutely reimburse for eligible costs for the STEP program. But I think for right now, the ball is in the government's court with the contractors that they hired.
So I'm not asking about Puerto Rico, I'm asking about the Virgin Islands. So my understanding is that the local government of the Virgin Islands has given you all of the information, and right now it's for FEMA to finalize the outstanding issues so that it can be resolved by August.
Again, ma'am, I may have a little bit of data information, 30, 45 days old, but the last up check I got was still waiting on paperwork, so we could actually, we have no problem with identifying the funding to pay out on it. It's really making sure all the costs are eligible and reasonable and proper, and absolutely will pay on those, when that criteria is met. But from my latest understanding, and I'd be happy to go back and get an update on it, but my latest understanding is that the territory and its vendors are still working those out.
I thank the gentlelady.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Gaynor.